What is up, everybody? Welcome to The Juice. This is an exciting day. It's an exciting day. Episode 20 of The Juice. It's a milestone day. And here with me, as always, Brandon Keckler, the man, the myth, the legend.
The man, the myth, the legend. I like it. Episode XX in the Roman
XX.
numerals, man. Because Roman numerals are way cooler. Cooler.
I think it's a good thing that we are using the Roman numerals, not only as like an allusion to Star Wars, but also because like I've encountered more people than I would even want to admit to count right now that can't read like a normal clock. And
Wow.
So I think just making it even more confusing by adding the Roman numerals into it is just something that's like, what does that even mean? Episode XX, what does that mean? You can't even read a clock. Don't worry about it.
Wow, I don't even know how to react to really any of that. First of all, I hadn't even thought about the Star Wars illusions, which that's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, wow, I didn't know there were people that don't know how to read clocks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You're not talking about like your newborn child, right? Like grown adults?
No, I'm talking about well, I don't know about grown adults, but at least like teenagers that I've met, they don't know how to read a standard, what do they call it? What kind of clock do they call it? They don't call it they call it analog?
The one, which
this analog clock.
This not digital.
Not digital. Yeah,
got it.
Because your iPhone just tells you the numbers, and so to read the analog clock, I mean, it's not like you're reading a sundial. I mean, it's simple math,
That's how me and my friends communicate when I'm driving the Warthog in Halo, which is like my favorite thing in the world. Mm-hmm. And I'm driving, I'm like, on our six, he's a three, get him at 11,
Right? Yeah.
And it's always where the Warthog's facing. Their turret can be wherever, but they know how I'm communicating, just how I'm driving. He's at my 12. Yeah, it's great.
Exactly. And that's slowly fading away into irrelevant. I mean, unfortunately, it's just everything's a digital clock now, which
soon we'll have it like that Justin Timberlake In Time movie where just the clock is like on our wrist.
Yeah.
Just constantly ticking
away.
Dang.
Yeah. That was a good movie, by the way.
Really good. Underrated movie.
Yeah.
Very underrated movie. It was like me and my buddies had that handshake for a while where we just like lock at the elbows, and just wop, transferring time. Yeah.
Yep.
Good movie.
I love it. Yeah, and JT, I mean, he's good at pretty much everything, isn't he?
He was his first lead actor role, and I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, he did do a good job. Well, if only JT were performing, to help Ravens fans cope with whatever's going to happen, the Denver Broncos, whatever they're going to do in Baltimore. A little trash talk. We don't do much trash talking here on The Juice, but we got to speak it into existence because we're hoping that the Baltimore Ravens get their butts kicked this weekend. We have some different ways that the Broncos can exploit the Ravens that we'll talk about throughout the show. Brandon, we've also got a big announcement for later in the show. So
big announcement.
I don't know if you have a teaser version of that, but I mean, it's definitely
just
big.
Stay tuned. It's not going to be an incredibly long episode, but we got something exciting to tell you guys. We're we've talked about this before, how we're getting to figuring out our song, figuring out our voice, figuring out what we want to do, and fine tuning as we go along. And we're not afraid to just like hit the brakes at any given time and pivot if we need to. If we find a greater path to take to get you guys to where you need to go, then we're going to do it because we're here for you. And we've got an exciting pivot that's coming, and we'll announce it at the end of this episode, and you're going to love it.
I like that tease. That's a good tease. Very good.
Off the cuffs.
Yep. That's how the best do it. That's how the best do it, is off the cuff.
So Ravens game, I'm interested. I love the test. I talked about last pod about how I actually prefer those previous games where we come out with like this, insane final act rising out of Helm's Deep, Gandalf coming over the horizon. I love the conflict. I love the challenge, and like the idea that everyone's like still low on us. And I feel like this is one of the last, like we're I think like in the athletic one, power rankings, I think we're tied for like 11th with the Chargers.
No, that's pretty good.
And that's fine. Yeah, that's a solid ranking. We're lower in other ones. And I'm thinking that this is kind of the game that people are like, all right, well, yes, the first one was impressive, but they're not really the Seattle we knew anymore. And then, oh, well, the Raiders played a good game, and yeah, the Broncos squeezed one out, but it was the Raiders. I think this is the first one where national media is really going to pay attention to us to see if we're for real. And I think that going into Baltimore and winning in an away game is going to be a powerful statement. And I'm very excited for us to make that statement. And I like the adversity. I like the conflict. I like the stakes as far as us going into having to go into Baltimore, after 2 home games in a row. And that's just going to be exciting to see if we can go in there and fight through this kind of adversity and this kind of and be the resilient team that we've been and beat Baltimore on the road and change the national conversation that the Denver Broncos are for real.
Oh, I love that. I think you're right. We're right on the cusp of like national respect. I think with the Athletic, they have such close coverage from the people who are probably making those power rankings or who are contributing to them, like as opposed to, NFL.com, who's getting the box score and seeing, the Broncos won 20-19 against the Raiders, and they just lost 33 to.
They're pulling their commentator ex-players that watch only like the games they want to watch. Yeah, I trust more of these. I love the Athletic, by the way. We haven't talked about that on the pod yet, but the Athletic is it kind of seems like they're this new thing that came out of nowhere in the past year, especially in the past few months, kind of risen to popularity. They were featured on iTunes front page for the first time last week, but it's like they've formed the Justice League of like all these journalists from all these different papers, and it seems like just the next evolution of sports journalism, to where it is a subscription-based service, but there's no ads, there's no pop-up, there's nothing like video autoplay videos or any of that. It's just a very clean interface, and they're just getting all these top journalists. You've heard of a lot of them, especially the ones covering the Broncos, and Lindsey Jones is covering just general NFL, and she used to run post Broncos. That's where I first discovered and came across her back in the day. But it's like they're getting all these really cool journalists together, and it's they have all 30 people in all 32 teams covering locally, and then they also have a really cool national team. They've got like Jay Glazer and Michael Lombardi and some other people that are some other big names, but they're just getting they're eliminating the newspaper companies, and they're just going straight to the consumer. And you can access it from a website, but it seems like it's mostly this app-based social next wave kind of based service that so far the articles none of them have been clickbait. They're all quality. The interface is awesome. The UI is really cool. It's so worth paying for their subscription. And the content that I've been getting so far has just been incredible. And they interact really well. They do Q&As with their fans or with the subscribers. And dude, I'm loving it. I think it's really cool. I've been waiting for, it's like a Netflix of sports journalism is one of the things that I had said. I've been waiting for these where these companies fully adapt to what the people want. And it's felt like newspaper companies and some of these TV companies have been really behind the ball at adapting and really trying to hold the old way together. And there's a better way to do things, man. Especially with all these apps and other companies, even like looking at Netflix and going, okay, what are they doing that we could apply our sports journalism to? And it seems like the Athletic is a sign of a group of journalists choosing to adapt to what the consumer wants. And I love it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't paid for that. That was all organic.
That's all organic. That's a great summation of what they do. And they do have, just an all-star group of people running that place. And so it's really cool to see. It's cool to see, especially because, as I went to school for media studies and journalism, and basically, I'm not trying to throw anyone under any bus here or anything, but we were basically told journalism is pretty much dying, and you're looking for ways to resurrect it. And so It's cool to see. It's cool to see creative people who are also journalists working to make it entertaining. It's entertainment, and you're putting a fan in a position of firsthand information, and so I love that. And we're so connected. We're so connected to our teams, and I think that's why Broncos fans get really passionate. To be honest, I don't know if there's any other team out there. I was looking a couple weeks ago. I was looking to see if the Cleveland Browns had a YouTube channel, and maybe they do, but I couldn't find one. I couldn't just search Cleveland Browns channel on YouTube or anything like that. And I had to get like super specific about it, and I still didn't find one. I don't even remember what I was looking for at this point. I got so frustrated I couldn't find a YouTube channel. But think about the Denver Broncos. I mean, their YouTube channel, they're cranking out videos. They don't care if that video gets 1,000 hits or 17,000 hits. They don't care. They're putting out content, just fun stuff. Even like the walking out of the practice facility with Doma Peko, and just like they call it the out route, and that kind of stuff, along with like what the Athletic is doing, and hopefully what we're bringing to you here is just bringing you that firsthand information,
with some conversational intimacy.
Conversational intimacy, exactly. Football doesn't always have to be, or sports in general, it doesn't always have to be about, well, you know, I listen to this person because they're right the majority of the time. It's not like, we're not like weathermen, you know. We're not trying to predict the future. We're not trying to give you a forecast. We're giving you our opinion, and, you know, things that we say might happen, might be wrong. But you know what? I would say that you and I have been pretty darn good on the prediction front so far.
I think we're tapped into the flow, man.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos are undefeated at this point, and, you know, we predicted 19-0. So, so we're 2 out of 19 so far. We'll see how the rest goes, but no, I'm just messing around, obviously. But it's fun. It's a fun time to be a football fan, absolutely, especially after last night. I mean, my goodness, before we get into the Broncos and Ravens matchup, how about one of the Ravens? Hopefully one of their new rivals, the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I know that they're kind of already rivals, but the Browns have been so bad. How can you call that a rivalry? So, I mean, last night's game, Baker Mayfield getting his first action of the 2018 season, regular season, that is, leading the Browns to their first victory in 635 days. It took however many quarterbacks, that many attempts. I think it was 21 games over that time frame. However many quarterbacks, however many different players made up their 53-man roster in that time frame. And here comes Baker. Doesn't even get 4 full quarters, and he comes in and he gets him the W. I just thought it was astounding to watch.
He had, according to the Pro Football Focus graphic, and, you know, however much we can, for what it's worth, whatever we can count their ratings or whatever, but best rookie debut. And since they've been tracking it since, I think, 2006 or something like that. And I mean, I don't even really need to see the stats on that. That's what my eyes told me anyway.
Yeah.
He took over 0-14 game, you know, against another quarterback that, at least in week 1, came in hot. You know, maybe not on the first play in his pick 6, but followed it up with just a decimation of the Lions. And, you know, to see him come in a deficit, you know, that's not usually when you want to start your rookie.
No,
you don't want to talk about, you know, someone said last night, Darnold and Baker should have been switched, as far as like Baker should have been the one that started week 1, and Darnold should have been the one that sat and watched and learned and developed. And I think you got that last night, where it's like, you know, they were talking about Hugh is, I don't know what he was doing with his team, and saying that we still need to go evaluate the tape to see if Baker is. Yeah, you're the only one.
Yeah, he's
the only one that needs to go evaluate the tape and see who's starter. And his whole, like, we think that Tyrod gives us the best chance to win thing is so stupid. There's just that's you're wrong. If that's what you think, you're just dead wrong, and the whole world can see it. The man sitting, the layman's fans on the couch can see it, and the energy in the Brown Stadium that was palpable. Just when he was coming in and went 3 for 4 in that first drive, enough. Even if they lost that game, was enough to tell you it's time to make that change and shift to Baker. But the fact that he could come in an 0-14 game and take it over like that, and especially close out at the end and catch a touchdown, or not touchdown, but catch the 2-point conversion. He just came in and he was everything that we hoped Baker would be right from the start, and gave the Browns their first win in freaking 630 days from an 0-14 deficit. Like, the dude just keeps writing an awesome story for himself, and I love it. And that's why our episode 0 never posted was just us gushing over hoping the Broncos would grab Baker, and then we ended up recording our first episode after they grabbed Chubb, and we were still very happy. But our pre-draft first episode was like, oh, Broncos, please grab Baker Mayfield. So we knew that this is the moxie and the whatnot that you would get, and a lot of people did. Obviously, he was taken first overall, but to see him come in that setting, despite kind of being handicapped by his own coaches and their own, inability to see who should be on the field, because you're looking at 1-1-1 Browns, you could be looking at the 3-0 Browns with some of those close games. If he played in those games like he did last night in that 2.5 quarters, I think the Browns would be 3-0 right now.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that. And I think that to your point about the palpable energy that was in that place last night, I mean, we could see it. We could feel it through the television screen. But I watched all 7 games of the 2016 World Series between the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago Cubs. Game 7 of the World Series. This is going to be like a super flaming hot take, so prepare your hazmat suits. But in my opinion, that was the most energized I've seen the Cleveland fan base since Game 7 of the 2016 World Series. And the Cleveland Indians haven't won a championship in however many. I mean, it was the second longest streak and probably is the longest now that the Cubs have won it.
Right.
The longest streak without winning a World Series in Major League Baseball history. Game 7 of the World Series, they came back and tied the game late. And it was just it was electric, absolutely electric. And it was something weird about, just like, to me, the similarities and almost like even the lighting over the stadium. And like, I don't know, it was weird. It was eerie to me because it made me actually think about that same situation. And so clearly.
And think about, like, the Browns don't have much reason to be excited, as far as like them having, it's like us when we just wanted some energy. We wanted to feel something better than what we were feeling in some of those previous years that we've had. We've been in similar situations, whether it's Tebow or whatever, but it's like, they just need a jolt of energy. It's like, if you're already going to be losing, and they're probably not going to win the Super Bowl this year. They have some pieces. They're looking like they're much improved. They've been able to contend with the Steelers and the Saints, but they're probably not winning any Super Bowls this year. Give the fans a product worth watching. You gotta gloss it down to that at some point, where you're like, at the end of the day, this is an entertainment sport. And not only that, but your team has been very, very terrible to watch for too long. So put the guy in that brings the energy. And Browns fans would rather have 4-12 season where you actually have a lot of fun, you have an exciting quarterback, and you make some exciting plays, than a 7-9 and you miss the playoffs anyway with Tyrod Taylor, and it's a more boring season. You know what I mean? I think Browns fans would rather have their guy there and have him learning, throw him into the fire. Baker's a guy that can handle it. We saw that last night. He can play through the adversity. He can play through the resilience. He doesn't need everything going the right way. He doesn't need the perfect situation. Baker's a gamer, man. He's just going to go in there and he's going to ball. And that's what we saw. And that's why the energy just rose and shot up and was electric for the Browns fans. Is we got our guy. We have somebody we can root for behind center that pumps us up, that has charisma, that can inject passion and fire into a fan base that just has been freaking dead cold, man.
Well said. Well said. And I'm excited to see that era continue on. I know the Broncos. I think the Broncos and the Browns played this season. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't remember which AFC division Denver plays. Obviously, they're playing Baltimore this weekend.
That may be because hold on. Let me see. I'm pulling it up, but keep talking.
Yeah, pull it up. Yeah, so it is exciting. I mean, as much as you and I talked up Baker Mayfield before the draft, that doesn't change now that he plays for Cleveland. Still believing that he's going to be a great NFL player, despite what a lot of people said about him prior to the draft, and excited to see how that team continues to respond week in and week out to the adversity of now having. I mean, the expectations are going to increase, and so. Last night's win was fun because there were no expectations of winning that game. And so now the Browns are going to have expectations. And along with those expectations, I mean, the fans are going to have different response and reaction. It's going to change the game entirely for them. But I'm excited to see how they respond, because not only does Baker look good, that defense looks pretty darn good through 3 games so far. I mean, they shut down New Orleans pretty good last week. And then week 1, obviously, they only allowed, 21 points to Pittsburgh. And so definitely an improved defense for Cleveland under Greg Williams, who's maybe one of the craziest defensive coordinators in the NFL. I remember last night at the end of the game, he just had his glasses just dangling off his face. Like he had it was insane. Those guys, good for them. I mean, good for them to get a victory. Good for that fan base. Very happy for all of you. But it's on to the team that actually took the place of the Cleveland Browns in the NFL way back when. Kind of a super savage segue there. But the Baltimore Ravens, formerly the Cleveland Browns.
And really quickly, speaking of Browns, we have a Saturday game in Week 15 on December 15th against the Browns.
Okay, so we're gonna have to make sure Baker has his notebook Week 15 because he's gonna get taken to school that day. So we'll have to make sure he's got his notebook. So the Broncos, I don't know if anybody knows this. The Broncos are 6-5 all-time regular season against the Baltimore Ravens, which is obviously that's a winning record, so that's great. But they're 1-4 on the road, and generally traveling east, I'm not a huge fan of that for the Broncos in terms of just matching up. So when the Broncos play, specifically when they travel to the East Coast to play a noon game, there's just something weird about that they just don't always play well. But the last time they traveled to Baltimore for a road game in the regular season, it was 2012. We remember that season very well because the Broncos were on a winning streak that could not be stopped. Chris Harris Jr. had a pick 6 off of Joe Flacco right in front of Anquan Bolden. It was a fun game. It should have been a sign of things to come for their playoff matchup, which we're not going to talk about in this show because he who must not be named, Raheem Moore. We're not going to be talking about that game. That was a game the Broncos should have won. So I don't know. Just on the general whole, how do you feel about the matchup going to Baltimore, Brandon?
I don't see how they have anything offensively against us. Now, I'm obviously, skeptical like most Broncos are right now about what Carr was able to do against our secondary. But I feel like that was kind of more of a game planning thing, where I don't see they don't have a tight end to take us out with. Obviously Seahawks did it with somebody named Will Dissly, who no one had ever heard of. But
right.
I don't like Alex Collins and Javorius Allen. I don't know if that's a running squad that's good enough to be able to beat Pecco and the freaking monsters in the middle. I don't see Joe Flacco and the combination of John Brown and Michael Crabtree being able to beat our secondary. Even a little weakened our weakened secondary, and I think our pass rush attack, the Orange Rush, is going to have their first field day where Carr was not only just completing these really short passes, but had a pretty decent O-line. And then Russell Wilson was, the scrambling, mobile, getting out of there, elusive quarterback. So we still hit 6 times. I think this might be the game that I think maybe we end Flacco's year and start the Lamar Jackson era.
Oh, wow. Just going to put him on his back.
There's the bold prediction.
I think
if anyone retires Flacco and starts the era this year that the Ravens are playing, it's us.
Yeah. There's definitely some bad blood there where, you don't root for players to get injured, but, definitely not going to mind watching Joe Flacco get hit in this game because of what happened in 2012. So I like that assessment there. I agree. I don't feel like Baltimore's offense is
matches up particularly well.
I don't feel like they match up really well with our defense, even though we had a bad week last week in terms of just playing that tight man coverage. The Broncos didn't do that very well.
I think they're going to go in and try to do the same thing that Carr did with the short passes and whatnot. But I don't think that Flacco's as good as Derek Carr personally. And I don't think that Crabtree and John Brown are going to be able to get it done against I don't know, man. I just think that they're not going to play as off the ball. I don't know. And then offensively, I'm excited to see what our weapons are able to do. I don't know too much about the Ravens defense, so you'd have to let me know. But I think that they're not as good as they used to be, from my impression.
So in terms of the dominant defenses that the Ravens used to have, they're not quite at that level. But even just through the first couple games, and it's hard. It's hard right now to take like bulk statistics, like net yards per game. That's not a statistic that you really want to hang your hat on right now, because Baltimore played Buffalo week 1, and Buffalo looks like the worst team in the NFL this year. And so
they're the new Browns for sure.
They are. And so so Baltimore they're second in the NFL in defensive yards allowed per game. They're number 1 in the NFL in yards per play. They rank 6th in points allowed per game. Well, and they're doing a pretty good job with 6 sacks through 2 games. Obviously, we have 7. And our defense and the Baltimore defense are number 1 and 2 in the NFL in terms of third downs allowed percentage.
So they're definitely better than I understood them to be.
They're pretty good.
But again, one of those was against Baltimore, and then they went into that second game, and everyone's like, "Oh, Baltimore is like so good. Look what they just did." And then they lost to the Bengals, and now everyone's like, "Well, now the Bengals have it together." It's like It's like they were saying that to kind of make up for the fact that they totally missed on that game. Oh, exactly. We just didn't know how good the Bengals were. It's like, well, what if both these teams are mediocre? Right. And what if the Ravens just aren't as good as we thought just because they beat a terrible team, and then another mediocre but maybe a bit better team beat a mediocre team, and now we're going to see, maybe that's why their defense looked so good, is because the Bengals offense, outside of throwing it to AJ Green, was the only real thing that they did. They didn't do too much else. Obviously, Mixon's pretty good and then got hurt, but Eifert didn't do anything. Believe me, I had him starting. He didn't get me no points.
Right.
I lost my match because I didn't start OJ Howard. I'm gonna be bitter about that for a minute.
OJ he had that nice touchdown too, huh?
Dude, I almost would have won putting Jake Butt in over freaking Eifert. I'm so upset on Eifert, man. So I had Disley and OJ Howard on my bench, and they both got touchdowns. They would have won me my match based on how much I lost. So I'm kind of bitter about the Eifert thing. Now he's finally healthy and he just doesn't get any touchdowns. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, the Ravens, there's a couple of things that stand out to me here. Number 1, they don't have a runner who has 50 yards rushing in 2 games total. They have Collins has 48 rushing yards. And Flacco somehow has 612 passing yards, but they have only 1 receiver or 2 receivers with over 100 yards receiving. So they're spreading the ball around. They obviously picked on a really bad team week 1, and they still have a turnover margin of -2. So they're turning the ball over at too high of a rate. They don't have any fumble recoveries. Right now it looks like the Ravens are kind of that, in that 7-9, 9-7 balance, where like if a couple games go the right way for them. My opinion on this game is the Broncos. This is the biggest, I think, difference in the game. What's going to give? The Broncos rank 4th in the NFL in yards per play, and they rank number 1 in the NFL in most plays of 20 yards or more. So the Broncos have the most big plays of any offense in the NFL through 2 games this season. And the Ravens are number 1 in the NFL in yards per play allowed. And so what's going to give there? I mean, the Broncos are a big play offense. They're breaking off big chunks of yards in the running game. They're second. The Broncos are second in the NFL in rushing through 2 weeks, which is pretty cool, especially because they're also doing really good throwing the ball in terms of just yardage.
Well, and the rush attack that we're using is 2 freaking rookies, which is just so exciting.
Right.
So
it is.
Exciting.
It is.
I think offense I think our offense versus their defense is kind of like a wash, that it's not going to neutralize each other, but it's kind of going to go one way or the other, and probably not too much one way than the other. But I think the victory I think our defense matches better against their offense. That's less of a wash to me. I think we got the advantage defensively. Maybe you balance that out a little bit with them having a home crowd and whatever. But I don't know, man. I think that I think this is going to be a fun test. I think that like we have a lot of those big plays, but maybe you see just a really dominant rush attack. Maybe you see a little Freeman and a little Lindsey just, back and forth, and us not as much taking them from needing too much of those big plays. Maybe not getting in those situations where we got to hit it big. Maybe we can play some better consistent football, and kind of tackle and hit some of their weaknesses. I don't know. But I'm excited.
I am too. I'm really excited. I love, like you said, the test of having this kind of tough road game early on. I don't necessarily want my team to be like, it feels like the Vikings. I mean, the Vikings get to go play the Buffalo Bills this week. It's just like, really, the Vikings are playing the Bills. Like, the Vikings would have the Bills on their schedule right now. It just feels like, oh yeah, the Broncos always get these early season games that are like, well, I don't know if the Broncos can win that game. But then all these other teams are getting these gimmies. It just feels that way. We're just playing the victim here for a moment. But I do like the idea of not the idea, but I do like the prospect of going into Baltimore and winning and really gaining some national respect this week. I could definitely see that happening. Yeah. And I think that the Broncos still haven't put together a complete game. And the Ravens are going to be well coached. They're going to be prepared. They always play well on special teams. That's obviously John Harbaugh's forte. And so I think that they're going to play well on special teams. The Broncos should expect the Ravens' best, and therefore they should give them their best. And they should not go in there thinking that they're going to be able to, like you said, just to take those big plays whenever they want. Go in and play some consistent football. Yeah. Let's get 4 quarters of turnover-free football from Case Keenum, and let's just see what happens if that alone would happen. 4 quarters of turnover-free football. Let the offense do its thing. Get the ball into the hands of your playmakers. And by the way, I wrote this on Predominantly Orange yesterday, but I think it's time for Deshaun Hamilton to start stealing some of Demaryius Thomas's snaps. And I think that everybody else's snaps should rise, but specifically Hamilton, who allegedly
out on third downs and just have it be Hamilton, Sutton, Emmanuel, and Jake Butt.
Yeah. Get the hands team out there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I feel like I've been the most patient with Demaryius Thomas, and you included in that. I think there's a sect of us fans that have been extremely patient with DT. He deserves it. He's one of the best receivers in team history. But at the same time, you got to catch the ball. I mean, you got to catch the ball when it matters, especially. And he had 3 really big drops in that game last week that I was just like, you got to be kidding me.
To me, it's not. Yes, you're right. It is catching, but to me, I almost look at it like it's less about him making the big catches as much as eliminating the stupid drops, man. It's just like, yes, he makes great catches. He makes phenomenal catches.
Yeah.
But then he makes these bonehead drops too often for a guy that's, getting his paid as good as he is and as much of a, shown as much promise as he is. I don't know where the disconnect is. I don't understand how all of that necessarily works. But yeah, man, it's just eliminating those drops and being a more consistent player. And until you do that, I think you need to have him. You're not scripting as many plays to DT. And when you do it in times where you eliminate the risk factor of it. Go to him on first downs often, hit him with those screens that he catches often, and let him get some out yards after the catch, but stop going to him in times where it really matters until he's making some clutch catches. And especially if you're talking about within each individual game, get some momentum going with DT before you're trying to hit him on those clutch plays. And maybe you're going to some more of these slot guys and you're trusting in some of these other guys that are consistently catching the ball that you can rely upon. I think Case needs to build some rapport with some of those guys for those third down plays or those clutch plays where DT is just like, kind of seems like he, it just deflates the energy that we're building. And there's so much of this game is about that intangible momentum and that energy, whether, the cold dead statisticians want to, admit to that or not. There's definitely something about that to where we got to build this orb of power and then you just unleash it, and take over the freaking game. So that's what I want, man.
Yep. I think for this game, I'm going to predict a 10-point victory. I'm going to predict a 10-point victory, and I'm going to say that the difference is I mean, you want to talk about a bold prediction. I don't even know if any of this is going to happen. We'll see. I'm going to say that Isaac Yiadom gets a chance to play in this game. And I'm going to say that he's the guy that's covering the backs and the tight ends. Broncos finally figure out that they need an actual cornerback to do that. And I think that Yiadom's going to make his NFL debut, and he's going to make a huge play in this game. And it's going to help the Broncos win by 10 points. What's your prediction? Yeah,
that would make our draft class look even better, and it already looks amazing. What's my prediction? Let's just pause real quick, and you and I are against each other in our dynasty league this week, and some heartbreaking news on my end just came out within the hour that Dalvin Cook is going to be out for the game.
Oh man,
which is one of my
boys. Break for me.
One of my boys against you. However, I had made the decision that I'm going Lindsey this week over Freeman. But you know what I'm going to do now? I'm unleashing Freeman on you. I'm unleashing Lindsey on you. I'm unleashing Cortland Sutton on you. And I need to get a Lindsey reception touchdown. I need to get Cortland Sutton's first touchdown. I need to get Freeman to pound one or two in and break off some huge runs. I'm taking you down, bro, with my trifecta Broncos.
The rookie overload. And then, of course, I can't be upset about that if it happens because it means that our team won.
Oh, Broncos victory over everything, always over fantasy. So that's going to be great, but it will be especially wonderful. But you've got DT against me, so that's your
redemption game.
Hopefully, let's wait for DT to – yeah, you're right. This week, let's go a little less to DT.
Yeah. Let's go less to DT this week. Wait till next week.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That's good. So yeah, that's my bold prediction is we get like a trifecta of rookie Broncos touchdowns.
Okay. I like it. I could dig that. If that does happen, I will accept my fantasy fate.
Hey, if DT catches 3 and we win this game, I will as well, my friend.
Very good. Very good. Well, I think you and I are in agreement. The Broncos feel like they're at least on par with the Ravens at this point. It being as objective as you possibly can. They're definitely on par at worst. And so this game being played in Baltimore, some things are going to have to bounce Denver's way. It's a tough place to play, no doubt. We're not going to deny that. We're not going to ignore it. But I feel like if the Broncos play like they're capable of playing, and I think that they match up a little bit better against the Ravens than the Ravens do against Denver. So I think you and I are in agreement. It's going to be a Denver
fire
victory.
All the missiles, man.
Yep, all the missiles.
Let's put an end to the Flacco era.
Yeah, let's get him out.
Once and for all.
Yeah, let's see Lamar Jackson get some garbage time.
We're already there, Let's get Rosen in, let's get Jackson in, and then we got all 5 playing.
Yep, that'd be. Before week 4, who could ask for anything more? I love it. Well, Brandon, I think it's time.
Well, everybody, we've got a very exciting announcement as we teased before. We came up with the juice, and it fit the Broncos tone in essence, as far as the Orange Crush and squeezing the juice, juice worth the squeeze, whatever, all kinds of, there's some really cool juice analogies and orange, our whole vibe. But, we want to bring a very original, unique product to you guys. And after coming across a couple other sports juices, we decided that, maybe there's another level we could take this.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a greater product. And rather than doing this after we've, established ourselves as the world's greatest Broncos podcast, coming soon to a podcast platform near you, we decided that while we're a couple weeks in and we're still finding our footing and developing our momentum, that maybe it's time to pivot to something else, something more cinematic, something more epic. And we have decided that the Juice podcast will now officially become the Knights of Den, which initially began as an autocorrect failure or perceived failure. and my buddy Preston actually pointed it out because I just typed in Knights of Ren. We were talking something Star Wars, and of course, I use Din a lot more than I use Ren for both for Madden and for fantasy and for Broncos and whatever. And so it autocorrects to Knights of Den with all three DEN capitalized, our Denver abbreviation. And my buddy just called it out, the Knights of Den. And then it just took over, and it's become a thing now. I switched my sports Twitter over to that. We've broadcasted that in the past couple of weeks, and Knights of Den. But it just hit me and Sayre that, dude, we love Star Wars, we love Broncos. The Knights of Den is just fits our essence a lot more than just the juice, which is like kind of more. We want to steer away from just being a typical podcast. We want to give you a unique product. So we just came to the unanimous conclusion and in a very passionate, very excited. We're stoked about this, especially for the marketing and merchandise potential in the future of Broncos Star Wars mashup. Not only some cool, we're going to get a cool Instagram going, some cool graphics and pictures and whatnot, but how much would you like to rock a shirt or a hat with like a freaking Kylo Ren mask with, the Broncos old school D on it or something like that. Just different shirts of Broncos players with orange lightsabers, and we're going to hit it, man. And it's going to be an awesome, unique product. And so expect that rebranding, launching of the whole new marketing appearance and look to come in the next few days. Hopefully by the time we do our next episode recap of the Broncos decimation of the Raiders, as we plunge a lightsaber into the heart of Joe Flacco and
get him out of there.
Get him out of there. We're tossing him down like freaking Han Solo off the ledge of the balcony.
Oh man.
Yes. So everybody, this has actually been the last episode of The Juice.
It is.
Episode 20. We hit 20 solid episodes of The Juice, and now it's time for us to undergo a revolution and evolution into a Broncos Star Wars combo entertainment cinematic experience where, it's a lot like life. There's a lot of life and death that's going on. I know people like to steer away from football being a war zone and all that because they don't want to cheapen the actual soldiers that are out there fighting. But there is something awesome and cinematic about the battleground of an NFL game. And Knights of Den, baby. The whole Jedi versus Sith, light versus dark. We're going to bring to you more of those qualities and elements and essence of all that. So we hope you like the branding. And Sayre, what are your thoughts on all that?
You said it well. I'm super excited for that. I think, like you said, we want to bring something extremely unique and original. And when we found out that The Juice, there was another couple of other podcasts that we didn't do the research before we started this, because we did, and there was nothing that we knew of at that time. But then it came to our attention that there was another podcast about fantasy football, and so I think that's been something that you and I are on the same wavelength about from the start. Is we don't want this to be something that's similar across any other platform or anything like that. And this is just a perfect opportunity. Nothing happens by accident, people. There are no coincidences. So we're believing this is a divine appointment, and so we're expectant for it, and I'm excited for it. Like you said, two of our biggest common interests from the get-go: Star Wars, Denver Broncos. It's fitting. It's something that people can rally around. I love this idea and where it could take us. And so believing for the best, hoping for the best, and expecting the best.
And you know what? We've already got the Twitter handle. We're going to have an Instagram, YouTube, some really exciting. This is not only a name rebranding, but we've got a lot of ideas we've been cooking up for the past couple weeks. And we're going to bring you a more complete, more dynamic, multifaceted product. And you got some exciting stuff, not just the name of the Knights of Den coming, but we're gonna go through a revolution of just a total upgrade as far as what kind of stuff we're bringing to you. There's gonna be some smaller, more digestible stuff There's going to be some little things on Instagram and some like smaller portions of the podcast. We're definitely going to get some cool pictures and merch, and just have different ways that we're interacting with the community, whether you have, a couple seconds to look at something, or whether you've got, an hour and a half to interact with us on a podcast, and all the places in between that. So get excited, Bronco Country. This is a very exciting time. We're about to be 3-0 after we beat the Ravens. And here at the Knights of Den, we're going to be bringing you some awesome Broncos content all week long, 2 podcasts a week, and exciting stuff from other angles.
I can't wait for it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, the next episode, the next podcast that you hear, it will be under the Knights of Den name. Wow. How about that?
Exciting times.
Exciting times indeed. And I feel like there's no more fitting way, Brandon, than to close out the last episode of The Juice. And for you to do.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here with us for the last 20 or however many you were with us for. Thanks for coming on this journey with us. And it's only going to get better from here. This is Brandon Keckler and Sayre Bedinger on The Juice for the last time, but with great content coming at you from every angle with the Knights of Den. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless, and go Broncos.